Hey guys, Sean Hammond with PremierGuitar.com. We're at Winter NAMM 2015 at the Dunlop booth, and we're talking to Bob from Dunlop. Bob,
yes, sir.
Good to see you again.
Yeah, likewise. It's been a year. I can't believe it. Thank you.
I know. First video of the show, so we're stoked about the pedals that we're seeing here. You just saw Tal playing a really cool new pedal, especially with sort of the trend these days towards smaller pedals. I thought it was really cool to come over here and see this tiny little wah. So, yeah. Bob, tell us about that.
Well, obviously, things have been shrinking, especially, with the light flight cases and, basically you put your luggage and your pedal board in the same compartment, or your gig bag. Crybabies aren't gig bag friendly. And they were designed when there was no gig bag. Yeah. But now, we've taken the thing and being able to shrink it down, but still have total functionality of the full big Crybaby. And actually we added a feature here which I think people will dig, because it also can be internally selected for 3 voices, just like a 535Q, except we narrowed it down to some of the 3 favorite. Yeah. And that's the classic Crybaby, the warm vintage sort of sound, which is a little.
Is that Hendrix, sort of like the new Clyde McCoy, or
a little Clyde-ish, a little Hendrix, a little more on the dark side, and then we have a real dark wah for people that really want to go to that low end articulation. But
how do you switch those again?
It's an internal slide switch.
So you unscrew the bottom.
Open the bottom, just as you would gain access to the battery. The other cool thing that we did was we rubberized the bottom so it lays flat, no feet. Nice. And it's pedal board friendly too. You can stick it together with the dual lock or Velcro, and it also has a great surface area, so it's really stable. The other thing too we noticed, just as a word of thought, when you play it, you approach it like where the pivot point is, the axle, you put your arch of your foot over there, and it's going to feel exactly like if you were playing a big wah. And to me, playing with it for a few minutes like that, I really didn't miss at all the fact that it's smaller.
It has to be right here.
And it's just
sorry, Tal, say that again.
So your foot has to be in a certain pivot point, like Bob was saying. The arch of your foot is where the actual pedal rotates, and the action was identical to a larger wah.
So you guys sort of adjusted where you located the hinge and all that, so to get the same feel of a bigger pedal, but obviously you couldn't just throw the exact same location of the axle on there.
And it's all the same electronics of your GCB 95, except the fact that you can change the settings, the 3 different tonal settings, also true hardwire bypass.
So which mode was it on when we came in?
This one was on the classic. It's like a GCB 95. So the thing is that you just couldn't just shrink it. You had to ratio the X and the Y a little differently to keep the same feel, and it was a challenge. And we had actually, believe it or not, 3D printers came in handy. We had quite a few different iterations. We came up with this, which felt the most natural, and obviously it looks like a Crybaby too. It's got the same sort of profile feel, and that street goes for like $99.99
nice. With
a dot in the middle. So it's really affordable, but actually you're getting more functionality than a GCB 95. It's just Crybaby, but in a small package. You could throw it in your gig bag, pedal board light. It's a great thing for 2015. We're very excited.
That's really cool. Now, we should mention, you mentioned opening up the back to put in a battery, but you're actually powering this with a new product that you guys are stoked about, the MXR ISO brick.
Yeah, the MXR ISO brick. It's an M238. This is a really a great feature in the making that for a while, and it's a totally isolated power supply of 10 outputs, 8 of which are 9 volts, 2 are 18. We also had the idea that there's a lot of digital pedals out there now, so we actually have 2 9-volt batteries that support 450 milliamps of power. The cool thing about an ISO brick is that all the grounds are separate. You can power a ground positive or ground negative power pedal without cross-connecting grounds and power, because each one, think of it as an individual battery, It will also have 2 sag outputs, which are for emulating batteries that are kind of on their curve, which a lot of guys like them for distortion.
Like use it with their fuzz or something.
Fuzz is it's magical. Matter of fact, you can change the whole characteristic of fuzz and a lot of overdrives and distortions just by sagging it out.
I noticed it's a nice compact size. It's not as long as some other bricks on the market, although it looks a little taller. Can it be mounted under like a pedal train? I think this is a pedal train, right?
Yeah, it'll fit. The cool thing about this is that with the power supply that comes with it, it's an 18 volt 2 amp, and then it gets converted internally and all isolated. The right angle jack or the right angle plug that plugs in allows you to mount it any position, so it's flush all around, all square edges, so I can mount it on its edge, side. So
you mean if you mount it on the top of your board?
Yeah, the top, bottom. You can mount it this way, vertical. It really, except for the fact that you're not going to mount it on this side.
Right.
But other than that, in the lights, I want to point out the lights indicate when something's plugged into it. If there's a short, it'll tell you which one's shorted. By the light will go out, or it'll dim. It'll change color.
On working, off, not
exactly.
Works great. Thank you.
So if the light's off, then the pedal's not getting power.
Right now, that particular output is now off. Now it's on. If this output were to short, let's say you had a bad pedal, this would extinguish. This would go out. So it's just a status indicator, just like on and off. Yeah. So it's a very compact pedal.
All right, Bob. So before we move on to the next pedals, 2 questions. Can you mount this under a board like a pedal train? And if so, how much does it cost?
Yeah, well, first off, you can. It'll fit the horizontal. And as again, you can mount it other dimensions too. So it's a real versatile mounting system. You'll see it street for $149.99.
Okay.
So it's a lot of power for a great price point.
Yeah, it's a pretty good deal.
Yeah.
Okay, so next up, I think we were going to talk about the Submachine.
Yeah, the Submachine kind of pretty much is two products in one. It's our like a NAMM machine fuzz tone circuit, and which has the octave up, and also our octave divider. So this pedal can do 2 things as far as signal chain. You can put the octave and the fuzz side by side and mix them at the output, or you can take the octave and then put it into the fuzz, and then that's your signal chain, a serial signal chain. The cool thing about that is that when you're playing and you really want this big, boomy low end along with fuzz, you put them side by side. But if you're playing in a band and that fuzz maybe get a little bit, or the low end get a little bit away from you or tubby, serial, it will roll off a lot of that low end through the fuzz processing. So, I could go on and on, but it's really simple to use. 2 buttons, on and off octave, and just a bypass. And I'll just run through some sounds.
Yeah, let's hear Tao play that.
Okay, great. Right now, bypassed. Now here's the fuzz. Classic tone. Passive. Very big array of tone. Now I'm going to bring in some of the fuzz, and right now it's going to be a parallel. So it's going to get very big low end. There's just all sub. Now I'm going to put on the series. Keep on playing, Tal, if you don't mind. See how it's tightened up?
Yeah.
That's a little more band friend.
So you don't piss off your bass player.
Exactly. Now I'm going to kick in the octave up. Now that's without the sub. That's your all octave fuzz. Now I can bring in the sub. So with these 2 variations, you can get quite a lot of tonal array.
Man, in that parallel mode with a sub cranked, you could almost take another output and send that to like a bass amp.
Well, yeah, technically, yeah, it's really 2 pedals in one, and it would, you split it. But we just try to keep things simple. But you're absolutely right. Maybe a TRS, the next Mach 2,
Yeah. Okay, so next up is the the El Torino overdrive, right?
So the El Torino overdrive is the concept of cascaded MOSFET drives, just sections, just like a tube amp. You know, it's not one area where you build a lot of gain and then you squash it through diodes. It does have diodes in here, but it's got more of the concept that you have a gain stage, and tone shaping, and then some clipping going on, but all done with MOSFET. So it's a very organic, open, not a lot of filtering, which is great. When you turn your guitar down, it's very touch sensitive and nice and wholesome, somewhat transparent. So. Right.
It's got a lot of knobs for an overdrive, right? So is that full 3-band EQ?
The full 3-band EQ passive, which is like a tone stack, which is, you know, for amp lovers, it's going to react just like an amp. And the other 2 knobs are straightforward, master output and gain. Okay. The middle button, it goes between silicon and LEDs. Okay. So you can get more of an open, almost an amplifier that's just about ready to clip with the LEDs, or the silicon, it'll really clamp down and give it a little more of a compression and more harder edge distortion when it hits clipping. So enough of my yak, and let's do some playing. Straight into the amp. So I'm going to back down the gain. Just very, very clear. Back it over. The tone, very nice and interactive, just like a tone stack. Now here's the silicon diodes, more compressed, and it's more crunchy. When I push that back out, to me that's not very amp-like. Now if Tal backs his volume down, it's going to clean up nicely. Very classic. It also has a Class A amplifier at the output, so to keep the drive of your cable, so it's a constant drive, which is, you know, a lot of guys, they love true bypass, and I'm all for that too, but there's also something to be said about actually having a static buffer at your output that sends the constant signal as you pull things in and out. It's not going to change. The length of this cable and that cable, it's going to always be rock solid, because from here on, it doesn't matter what kind of cable, good, bad, or indifferent, it's going to drive that cable nice and hard, so you're not worried about the anomalies or
losing high end.
Exactly. So
okay,
that's
sweet.
the El Torino.
Next up
is we're going to move into the fuzz face. Now this new fuzz face, the band of Gypsies, is actually, for fuzz face lovers, they're going to really get a kick out of this, because it's not the classic fuzz face circuit. A while ago, you know, Jimmy, he played the fuzz face, but he also, in certain places, there was a fuzz face big casting, but inside it was different electronics, and it was actually the front end of an Octavio, which actually was based off a front end of a mixer at that time, but it was just an overdriven mixer. The cool thing about this fuzz face also, it will be able to get hooked, be sourced by a wah-wah without any problems. A lot of the classic wah-wahs, the fuzz face, the input circuit is so low, and it's basically a single capacitor and a diode drop. It just loads the heck out of the guitar signal, but that's part of the tonal shaping. But it also messes up with the final output of a wah-wah, and it can start to howl and feedback. This is a different circuit. It doesn't have that loading effect. So it can actually go from wah-wah into this fuzz face. And
so this one's different from the 3 fuzz face minis that came out a few months ago.
Exactly. Those are very classic fuzz face circuits. And as well, you know, the World, and if you have the DIYers, if they're building fuzz faces, that's that same circuit. This is a different circuit, but it does get very classic fuzz sounds. But the cool thing about this too is that it has a lot of output. You turn your amp down a bit or have that gain, and you push this into your amp, and it just takes on a whole different tonality. Unlike a fuzz face, is more like it's very compressed, and this is what you get. And let's give it a listen.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Maybe I'll be able to show you what I mean. So this is the fuzz on. It's still spitty. Backing it down. Very nasty and fuzzy, but it's got a different timbre than the fuzz. It's a little more control. It's got a little more, almost like a hi-fi fuzz face, so to speak. Now, if he turns up or turns down the volume, and I crank the output volume up, a lot of that high end will now take on a different tone. Rounds up, and it starts to sag because it's hitting the front end of the amp, where the normal fuzz face doesn't have as much of that output to do that. So this is a really innovative take on the fuzz face tone, but you can still get that classic sort of saggy, spitty, but a bit more control.
Very
if
cool.
I back this down, it'll clean up much more tame.
Yeah. Bob, how much does this fuzz face go for?
So street, you'll see this for like $149.99 on the street.
This also, there's a limited edition version of this pedal that's the normal size as well.
Sweet.
3 new way huge. It was a very busy year. The Saucy box, which is an overdrive, which is very cool because it's based on two parallel circuits, a clean and an overdrive, so you can mix in. So it really has a great open character to it.
Volume drive, overdrive, and tone knobs, right?
Yeah, and it actually works in conjunction. One knob controls both circuits. So as you go down, it mixes more of the clean, and as you go up, it mixes more of the dirt, but it still has some of the clean left. So it really goes from a clean to an overdrive, but still has a character of your original tone. Pretty much a boost right now. True hardwire bypass. It really sounds great. It's the kind of pedal that has a lot of great touch sensitivity and real finger-friendly sort of playing.
Nice. All right, Bob. So before we move on to the Blue Hippo, how much is the Saucy box going to be?
This would be street $129.99.
Sweet.
So
all right, Blue Hippo.
This can be a limited release, by probably at $900, because it has a very special bucket brigade, which we were able to obtain, but they're old stock and they just don't make them anymore.
So analog chorus.
Analog chorus. It's real straightforward speed and depth, which everybody's familiar with. Speed, the rate of it, and the depth of how far it shifts pitch. It also has one button here, which is a vibrato button. So you just get the delay side, so that little seasick vibe sound. And it's very lush.
This is the vibrato mode.
Right now, this is the chorus mode. Makes it sound so good. And then there's the chorus. Really lush chorus, and again, old stock from old bucket brigades that they're not reissued. So
Nice.
This is really it's the gem. It's the gem.
Sweet. Now I think I saw on your little cheat sheet that's 169
You
street.
got it.
Nice.
Yeah, $169.99. Yes, and I'm cheating today.
All right, last up, Saffron Squeeze.
Saffron Squeeze. This is a a compressor, obviously a squeeze, and it has some really just simple yet very mindful controls, such as input gain. So as opposed to sustain. Sustain is the length of the note, how it's going to hold on, the gain. But the gain in the front end actually is the amount of signal that is also given to the circuit so that it reacts differently as well. You get a lot more sustain out of this than most compressors. The other cool thing is tone. Very simplistic, but not a lot of compressors have tone. The other cool thing, again, attack. So if you want really fast attacks for leads, you can speed that attack up, or slow, legato, lamenting in that sort of real Nashville sort of saggy, squishy. So this can get it all. Now let's just give it an example. Bypassed. In. So it's just a real great utilitarian but fun, easy to play. It actually makes like overdrives just that much more like it's processed in the studio. You're really focused.
Yeah, it sounds really nice.
Saucy box. Without it. It's nice. But
Sounds really good. Man.
Yeah, it's great.
Now this thing goes for what, like 149?
This one will go for 149 as well. Yeah, 149.
Sweet.
So,
now where should people go online to check out all this stuff?
well, they should go to premierguitar.com.
Okay. Well, thanks for the plug. You want to plug your own website?
No, well, we're in conjunction. These guys are friends. They always come to the NAMM show. They support us. So, man, Premier Guitar. It's wonderful stuff, great information. They make our job easy. But go to Dunlop.com, JimDunlop.com. All of the products are there. We also have great footage of players such as Tal and and also with the bass. With an in-tune guitar.
With an in-tune guitar, Tal wants to know. It's not his fault.
So anyway, thanks for stopping by NAMM 2015, if you can believe it.
Nice. Thanks, Bob. Thanks, Tal.
All right, man.
I'm Sean Hammond from PremierGuitar.com. Thanks for watching.